Great. So welcome everyone. This is our total body workout class. So yeah, usually I'm Coach Julio. So I think I met most of you. I think we have some new faces. So welcome if this is your first time with me. Feel free to call me Julio or Coach Julio. Whatever you like. I'm cool with any of that. So but besides that, yeah, this is a fitness and wellness class. So what we're gonna do here is work out. So our Monday class is pretty much like a strength and conditioning class. We're gonna be doing workouts. What I would recommend for equipment, if you don't have any, you could go to like your local Ross or Target and get some light dumbbells. You could order those through Amazon if you wanna. So, main equipment that we need is a chair, dumbbells, and a yoga mat. A towel on the floor works just fine, but yoga mat has a little bit more cushion. And outside of that, if you want some extra equipment, I would say some resistance bands, the mini bands that can go around your legs, or also some ankle weights that you could use for some light weights for your hands or for your ankles as well. But other than that, you don't really need heavy equipment. You don't need to have some fancy equipment here. I'm here in my garage. If you haven't seen it yet, I have a squat rack there and I have some stuff drying up there from yesterday's run. It was pretty warm up there. I went to Strawberry Peak just above La Crescenta. But yeah, you don't need all of that. What we'll do in here is plenty. And usually, at least a live Zoom session, how it's gonna go, it's we'll say hello. We'll go over kind of the material that's gonna be in Canvas for the week, and I'll go over that for this week. We'll kind of do a little review of that. If you have any questions, we'll go over that as well. But the main focus during our live Zoom session will be the workout. Workouts will usually be somewhere between 65 to like 75 minutes, including the warm up, the cool down, and the departure. So other than that, I know sometimes I have folks that have appointments and they need to leave by 30 minutes into the class, maybe 40 minutes, sometimes an hour into the class. That's totally fine. No issues there. But if you happen to miss the class, I always record these and then I'll post them on the front of the Canvas page. So where you saw the hyperlink to make it to the Zoom live session, right below it, I'll embed the YouTube video. And yeah, it'll be right there just in case you can't make it. And um and with that YouTube video, if you navigate to the YouTube channel, you could subscribe to that, and then there's hundreds of video workouts that we've done in the past, and you could always do extra stuff there. But any questions with any of that information? All right, so hopefully that's simple enough. I try to make this as simple
Mhm.
as possible. Let me share the Canvas page. So as I mentioned, from if you've been with me in the past, Canvas will have a little bit more information this time around. So, of course, all the stuff that I put on here, honestly, it's worth your time to go over. It's stuff that I go over, I review, I make sure that it's worthwhile. It's not just some random video or article. You'll see our live Zoom sessions here. So today's the 12th. We already have a holiday next week, so no class on next Monday. And then we go three straight Mondays again, then another holiday, and then three more. Okay, so just so you're aware, this is the class schedule. I always have someone or a few folks log in when we have holiday classes. If you log in during these days, you will not see anyone in here with you. So just keep that in mind. So let me go to the student view. So you folks know or have an
Evet.
idea of what you're looking at.
Buradaki picture.
And again, the module information, any of this stuff, it's at your own pace whenever you want to complete it. If you want to complete it, it's optional. There's really no credit given as long as you show up and you spend time on the Canvas course shell. So there's a picture of me. If you haven't seen me already, there's my contact information. If you text me, Feel free to text me. I don't have an issue with that. If you text me, that's probably the quickest way for me to respond to you. If you email me, there might be a little bit of a delay. But if it's something emergency or, of a concern, feel free to text me at my cell phone number right there. And other than that, like I said, I'll post the recordings here. So when it comes to navigating to our modules, you'll click here on this little module link. I think I've activated it. So I'll go over module one right now. So I'm still working on the rest of the term. I think I'm halfway through module three. So just our intro for this class for this week. I'll briefly go through it. You could go through this at your own time, but I just want to show you and what's here for you. So module one is just introduction to this class, just foundation, posture, and breathing basics. So you'll click on that first module. You'll get a little sense of what you learn this first week. You could go ahead and read that, kind of what we're trying to accomplish by the end of the week. There's a video that's going to explain pretty much what, the main components of this class or primarily this week. And again, you'll see what you'll do here. So just things that, this module or this week you'll be covering. If you choose to go through this, you'll be reading articles and watching videos on sarcopenia, reversibility principle, hydration, and drain connection. And again, that's what this whole online component is. That's what you'll see there. Today, we're participating in our group exercise. If you want to participate in a discussion, there's like a little group activity that you could do here on Canvas. It's one of the assignments, not mandatory, but it is good insight to see on 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 the topic that we're covering. And then there's going to be two skills that you could develop if you follow through with this module. And then yeah, just some some notes to take at the end. So what you would do is just kind of go next, hit that next button down there, and here you get more information on sarcopenia. Okay, so again, sarcopenia definition is the gradual loss of muscle mass, strength, and function. And pretty much this whole module just covers that and how to improve on that. A couple more videos on that. So hopefully you get this. Hopefully it's simple enough. You just hit next once you're done with that page and you just continue. And again, you could just read through this, try to put the main points of each topic. And yeah, that's just there for you. And yeah, you could just continue reading. Um, One thing that I will say is that this is a good way I know I've always talked about logging hours into your Canvas shell. And what I mean by that is when you access this live Zoom class, you have to access the live Zoom class through the link that you clicked on to make it here. So once you do that, you're logged into Canvas. So you're getting credit for being on Canvas, right? So other ways to get credit on being on Canvas is just by going to the class, opening up the face and opening up the modules and going through this. And then also another way you could do it is just opening up Canvas and you could navigate to a different, maybe you're watching a movie on Netflix and your Canvas is open. As long as that Canvas page is open, technically, there's participation going on. But ideally, we want to keep it honest and then also just kind of work on the stuff that we've been adding into the modules. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, there's plenty of information. I'll have something like this going on for every week for the next 8 weeks. And if you're in my other classes, this is something that we'll have into those classes as well. So just keep that in mind. I know I've had some folks, I'll stop sharing now. I've had some folks tell me, well, coach, I just want to work out. I really don't care for all that extra information that you have on Canvas. Is that okay? That's totally fine. But I'm just letting you know if you want to get the most out of this class, there's going to be a little bit more to it. If you want to treat this class more like a PE class, like a fitness class, that's totally fine too. But you'll get a little bit more out of it if you read that. And I'm not gonna quiz you guys and be like, all right, Debbie, what was covered on module 3 on page 4? I'm not gonna do any of that. We're not gonna, no quizzes, no exams, nothing like that. That information is just there for you. Choose what you want to do with it. But yeah, but other than that, that's probably the new stuff going on. I think I mentioned that for my folks that have been with me for a while. But any questions with everything that I just went over?
Wow, I have to say it's really thoroughly done. It's really, really good, but if
Okay.
I have the time to look through it, I will try.
Yeah, yeah, just go through it. Honestly, I was building them and I mentioned it before. I was just logging in and work out and I was
Mhm.
building this and yeah, I probably each week takes me several hours to just make it. So it's good information. And then I'm reading through the articles and there's some stuff that doesn't quite seem like it makes sense or it's accurate. And then there's some videos too that my mom's a huge victim of this, where she goes on Facebook and everything she sees on Facebook, she thinks is true. Everything that's AI. She was telling me yesterday about some baby getting kidnapped by an alligator and it looked very animated or something. So it's just, everything that you see online is not always accurate. So you want to make sure that you're covering, material that's actually accurate. So that's what you'll have there. But yeah, it does take some time to develop. So yeah, if you want to read a little bit more, do that. And then towards the end of the module, I know sometimes folks ask me, "Oh, do you have any extra workout videos, anything like that?" And at the end of the modules, you'll see that there's about 2 or 3 extra workout videos that you could do as well. And they're kind of linked with the module topic. And like I said, if you want to do something else, then what I would recommend is just subscribing to the YouTube channel and you could also just navigate through all the videos there. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I think I've covered it all. So any other questions or comments? Sorry if I'm shaking, it's because I'm cold, not because I'm nervous.
Let's start moving.
Yeah.
I say hello and bye. See you on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, Carmen's usually just here
Carmen.
for 5 minutes, then she leaves. So just kidding,
Bye
Carmen.
bye.
But yeah, so before we start, what I would say is, hopefully we have some equipment. If you don't have your equipment at home, what I would recommend is sometimes just like a heavy jug of like water or some books. If you have something like that, you could use something of a heavy object. If you have a small dog, you could grab that dog. But other than that, this is going to be more strength component.
Oh,
So make sure that the rest of the week, if you want to get a workout in, try to incorporate some cardio in there, go for a walk, do something a little bit more active to get your heart rate up. Don't expect your heart rate
you
to
need to go?
completely climb through
No,
the ceiling with this class, but yeah, but we'll get
no,
a
that
good
hurt.
workout. And as far as this session, these classes will usually do um, different sets of all of our muscle groups. So maybe the first set will focus on an exercise for our shoulders, one for our arms, and one for our glutes. And then the next circuit will do triceps, back, and maybe calves. So we'll rotate so we make sure that we hit most muscle groups of our body. And yeah, hopefully we are not walking away from this class too beat up or sore. So I feel like I just did cardio talking so much. So, all right, let's go ahead and let's get this started. Recommend having water and a towel nearby just in case we get thirsty or start sweating a little bit. All right, so feel free to mute me. Follow along if you like, if you want to put background music, at your in your workout station. So I won't have any music for you. It's just gonna be my monotone voice here. So. All right, here we go. So let's go ahead, find a space. I do like tracking um, my calories burned, so I usually have my fitness tracker app going on. So let me just make sure that we're all in here, and we'll start with the light warm up. Okay. So let's go ahead and then just start on our feet, and we're looking left to right. right here. Remember, I do appreciate the folks that turn on their cameras, so don't be shy. Feel free to have your camera on. And it does help me with correcting your form and then just making the class a little bit more lively. So left to right, just make sure you're breathing, deep breaths. Exhale, now up and down. Gonna get a good warm up. Last time I did this type of workout was the last time we met in December. So I haven't been doing too much weights. I've been running a little bit more, but not too much weight. So I want to make sure that I don't pull anything. All right, and then let's go ahead and do neck circles. Okay. So one of the topics in the module is going over exertion points. So pretty much being aware or self-aware of how much effort you're giving yourself into every workout. So let's switch. When we're lifting and I ask you to do maybe a set of arm raises, or let's just go bicep curls. Bicep curls is a pretty easy one. Your dumbbells are here and you're just curling. Very good. Let's go ahead and reach towards the ceiling. So if I ask you to do anywhere between 8 to 12 repetitions, you want to make sure that you're being pretty honest with yourself and you're not, if you have a very light weight and you're only doing 10, but you honestly know you could do like another 5 or 10 more, that weight might be a little too light for you. So maybe either increase the weight of your equipment, lean right, or if you don't have heavier equipment, just do a few more repetitions so you get some fatigue, because we do need to stress the muscles to develop them. So if there's no stress, no fatigue going on, you're not going to see much progress. Let's lean left. Very good. All right, let's follow along with Jan and let's do our single arm windmills. So right here. Does anyone want to share any fitness or health goals for this class or this year? Maybe it's getting stronger or shedding a couple pounds, gaining a couple pounds. Let's go in reverse. All right, let's switch. Let's go left arm. For my folks that were with me last term, we did the whole baseline testing and the testing at the end. Is that something that we want to do again to try to improve on? Switch, reverse. Do we want to try that again this term? All right, I'll give you a couple seconds to respond. Let's go bring that right arm across. So what do you think, Debbie? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
I think it's a good idea, but not today.
Yeah. No, I was thinking if we do something like that, we could do it next week. Because we had some material to cover. But yeah, so yeah, if you're new to this class, we had about 4 or 5 movements, and we did a baseline testing early in the term, and we would just see how many we could do. Let's switch. And we want to improve on those numbers by the end of the 8-week class. So yeah, maybe next week we'll pick a few and then we'll kind of just roll into the workout, and then we could have that table up front again. So I think it just helps that, you know, at least making more of an effort for those movements. Very good. Let's do our trunk rotation. So just left to right. Turn, bring your elbows up, and then just turn gently left to right. Left, right. All right, let's do our ab circles. So ab circles, we're just gonna hinge at the waist. Here, come across, keep your back straight. Come back, come over and across. Make sure your back is nice and straight. We don't want to arch it. How much working out did you do over the break, Debbie?
I did some videos a couple of times, but we've mainly been hiking.
Oh, nice. Just around your area?
Yes.
Okay, cool. One more. All right, let's go with big hula hoops. Okay, so wide stance and just exaggerate hip circles going around. So let's go wide. Hip circles. Yep, just go as wide as you can. You should feel some stretching going on, possibly in your inner thighs, or when you pop out your hamstrings. If you're really tight, even your calves. Okay, this being the first day, I want to spend a little bit more time stretching. So, because it's been a minute, we're going to do our hip openers. So for this one, it's going to be some balance work going on too. So drive your knee up and then out, down, and then up and down. If you need to hold on to a chair or an object for balance, that's totally fine. So feel free to do that. Let's do one more. All right, and let's switch. I did my longest run in about 15 years yesterday. It was 15.5 miles. And I was feeling amazing until mile 11. I mean, I felt great at mile 11, so I decided to pick it up. So I picked up the pace. Again, another balance component too here. So you could use a table or a chair, or we're gonna do a quad stretch. So for this one, grab right above your ankle and pull back. So yeah, so did 15.5 miles. Started out there behind on Highway 2, went up La Crescenta, Flint Ridge, and yeah, just did this big loop around Strawberry Peak up there right behind Mount Wilson. And it climbed almost 3,000 feet in elevation. But yeah, long story short, I felt great at mile 11. So I said, let's switch. I said, what the heck? Let's pick up the pace. And I feel good. So I picked it up. And the last 10 minutes of that run, my legs were falling apart. I started getting cramps on my hip joint, which I think I've only gotten that once in my life. And then, yeah, it was just like spasm, 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 stop and stretch, and then spasms. It was not awesome. So yesterday I was just kind of limping around the house. So let's bring that leg down. Hamstring stretch. Let's grab a hold of our ankles. Okay, and then just drop your hips down and then back up. to try to keep
You're
your
probably
abs.
getting too old, Julio, with those leg cramps.
I know, getting there. Yeah, I had to skip on a day trip to the aquarium with the family because my legs felt like they were gonna fall off if I went. So, two more. This is one stretch that I do every time before my runs now. Yeah, that one. And then our last one before we start our workout, let's go with our deep squat stretch. So exaggerated stance and drop your hips as low as you can. So drop your hips, torso's nice and upright. Is anyone out of state right now? Jan, I knew it.
Yeah, I'm in Utah on a ski trip, but I'm sick, so I'm trying this to see how I can do exerting myself before I go out in the cold.
Yeah, yeah, don't overdo it. And then let's rise. All right, very good. Oof. All right, so here we go. So again, let's go ahead, grab your dumbbells. So if you have a variation of weights, bring them all out because remember, anything that's with arms or far away from your body is usually going to be heavy with light weights, and you could go heavier anything that's close to your body. So grab a few options. I hope you feel better, Jen. Okay. Right, so just to start off, just so we're on the same page, what we're gonna do today is just 2 rounds of 3 exercises. Okay, so it's the first week back. We usually do rounds of 5 exercises. So we'll try to focus on shoulders and arms. We'll do one movement for that. We'll do either chest or back, and then we're also gonna do legs. Okay, so for the first one, we're gonna do a complex movement, and a complex movement is usually a movement that requires a certain amount of muscle groups. Okay, so our first one's gonna be a bicep Arnold press. So that's gonna be a bicep curl, rotate into an Arnold shoulder press, and then back. Okay, that's gonna be the first movement. So that's biceps and shoulders that we're working, okay? Now for our back, what we're gonna do is bent over rows. So for that, you're gonna hinge at your hips, keep your back straight, and you're gonna grab your dumbbells and pull up and down, okay? If that's too much or you feel like you need a little bit of support, you could always lean on a table or support yourself with the rest of the chair and then just do one arm at a time, okay? So just take your time with that. And now for our leg movement, another complex movement is going to be a squat. And the squat, we're going to go with the goblet squat. So dumbbell, usually hold it right here with both my hands, wider stance. Then sit down, squat down, and then exhale and go up. So inhale, exhale, okay? Anytime we do lifts, usually on the easier motion, you're inhaling, okay? So when you're going down, inhale, and then when you're exerting force, you exhale, okay? Same with the shoulder press right here. You might be inhaling, exhaling, but on your way up, you're exhaling because you're exerting your force, okay? And you want to brace your core as well. So you don't want to be slouching, keep your core tight, and you could do that just by flexing your muscles around. So, all right, here we go. The goal is to do 2 rounds of 10 to 12 of these, okay? We'll go with this being a total body workout class, maybe 45 seconds rest in between lifts, okay? All right, so let me start my timer. Grab your weights. Any questions before we start? All right. All right, here we go. So grab your weights. So Arnold bicep curl. So again, palms are facing the screen. We're gonna do a curl, rotate, press, come down, rotate in, and all the way down. Okay, so here. And once you get a nice flow, just go with it, okay? Try not to swing your body. Make sure you're breathing. Hopefully the weights aren't too much. Remember, you could always go on OfferUp, the Nextdoor app. There's a lot of different ways. A thrift store, maybe you could get lucky and find some, nice equipment. Yard sales, estate sales. So 10 to 12 of these. Exhale, inhale. Get ready and exhale, inhale. I'm gonna do one more. Sometimes if I just lose track of my reps, I just kind of stop when it starts burning. Okay, so 45 seconds rest. We're gonna do our bent over rows next. Yeah, so in between during this time, I usually grab some water, stretch out, get ready, position my equipment for the next movement. Whatever you need to do, just so we're doing that. And the idea to get a little bit more rest is so we're using proper form. Sometimes if we jump into the next movement, it's great cardio, but your form, if you're fatigued, you could have poor form. So we don't want any of that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do the first round using the assistance of a chair. So bent over rows. I'm going to support myself here and I'm going to do 10 on each arm. So I'm here, fully extend, I'm looking down and then bring that elbow back. Fully extend down, elbow back. 2, 3. So inhale. About 3 more. And I want that full stretch. Very good. And then I come up and I switch. All right. Catch my breath, position myself. Make sure that I'm bracing myself and I'm feeling secure. And start with the next arm. And again, this is focusing on your back. So just flare that elbow out as you're bringing it up. Very good. All right. Awesome. So 45 seconds rest. Good time using. Okay. We're about 40 minutes into the class. So maybe after we're done with this complete set, after the second round, we'll take a little bathroom break and then we'll jump back into the workout. 15 more seconds. I'm gonna, on Saturday morning, gonna try and hike Mount Wilson, but I have to get there really early because the trailhead gets busy, so, and parking's limited. So that's the plan for Saturday. All right, here we go. So goblet squat. So this one, 2 options. You could go here. What I like about goblets, keeps your torso upright, or you could do sumo with your dumbbell down here. So either way, we're still doing a squat. Ready? So give me 12 to 15 on this one. Okay, go. So torso's nice and upright. I'll give you the side angle so you can kind of see. We don't want to slouch forward. We don't want to do any of that. We want to keep your torso upright. 3, 4. And I do like a little half-second pause at the bottom before I come back up. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 to 15, 12, 13. Ooh, my legs are burning. 14 and 15. Awesome, very good. All right, so we'll go with 1 minute rest after this round. So grab some water, and we're gonna do that circuit one more time. Did anyone get a equipment upgrade over the break? Something new? We'll go another 20 seconds and we'll start with our bicep curls into Arnold shoulder press.
I got a kettle weight. Julia.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Love
try.
it. How heavy is that, Teresa?
Heaviness, whoosh,
How many pounds?
I don't know, but it feels like 20
Okay. Yeah.
right now. That's my problem.
Yeah.
I gotta build strength.
your legs. I'm sorry?
I gotta build some strength.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Here we go. All right. Bicep curls. So this time maybe we could try doing about maybe 1 or 2 more repetitions, okay? So maybe 14 or 15 this time around. Ready, begin. So 1, 2, 3. Seems like it might be a little bit warmer today. I think like high 70s maybe. 4, 5, 6, 7. Another thing to do as well, if you aren't able to get heavier equipment, you could just slow down the movement and make your muscles work a little bit harder by slowing down the exercise. So that's another way to, make your workout a little bit more challenging with the same equipment. I'm at 11, 12, 13, 14. Ooh, I'm getting there. And 15. All right. 45 seconds. So what I mean by slowing it down is if you typically do your bicep curls and you're just here doing them pretty quickly, to make them more challenging, you could just go here and then really slow it down, and then back up, and then really slow it down right there. Okay, so instead of just doing this motion here, just come up here and then slow it down, and watch, it burns a lot more. So again, if you don't have heavy equipment, that's something to consider, and you could do that with any exercise. All right, here we go. We have our rows. So now if you want to do both sides at the same time, just make sure you're really tight and hinge at your hips, and then just begin. So if you're here, you could go 1, 2, go ahead and begin. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, And 12. Oof. Very good. We'll have our goblet squat after. There you go. Yeah, and if you're doing your single arms, just get on all the sets in. Any questions so far? All right. All right, goblet squats. Okay. So if you had just one dumbbell, holding it as a goblet for this last repetition or last set, maybe this time grab 2 of them if you have to, and then just same motion. So give me 12. Okay, ready, begin. So again, if you want to make it more challenging, just slow it down. Just go slower. Debbie's got her 40-pound kettlebell. Teresa's using her new kettlebell for this one. Oh, my knees are popping. I don't know if you could hear them. Sounds like popcorn. Yeah, 3 more. Ooh. Usually that popping goes away after like the 3rd one, but not today. All right. Very good. All right, so this is where we'll take our little water break, bathroom break. So it's, what's the time? 8:46. So let's take about 2 or 3 minutes and then we'll start back up. Okay, grab some water. We'll go with another minute, 1 more minute, and we'll start back up. How are we doing, Mary? My new folks, how are we doing? Doing okay?
Good.
All right. Therese, your camera should be on. Come on. I know you're not shy. All right. Oh. All right, so our next set, we're gonna go. We did shoulders and biceps. This time we're gonna work on triceps. This one, usually I like supporting myself, bringing the elbow up similar to our row, but this time you're just extending at the elbow, okay? So we're not doing this motion. We're not rounding it out. Elbow back and extend. That's working on the tricep, okay? Now for our chest, what we're gonna do is gonna be an underhand front raise. So you go wide outside, you bring your dumbbells here right in front of you and back. So I know it's similar to this front raise here, which works on the shoulder, but by bringing them underhand and going wide and in, it works on your pecs, okay? We did our glutes and our hamstrings. Now what we're gonna do is gonna be for our quads. Okay, so for our quads, what we're gonna do here is gonna be a reverse lunge. So reverse lunge, we're gonna be in this upright position, step back, go down, and then we're gonna alternate. If we can't do lunges in that manner, we could do a static just up and down lunge where you step back and you just go down this way, and you can do that as well, okay? So it's a little bit safer for balance purposes, but if you're able to do the reverse step lunge, and you could alternate, that you're definitely gonna feel that on the quads. All right, those are the three movements. Let's go ahead, grab our dumbbell and position yourself for doing 10 to 12 on each arm. Elbow is here, your back is nice and straight, and extend. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Try to keep your eyes down, head down. Anytime you're bracing your back or you're using your back, you really don't want to turn your head much, so that could aggravate your your neck. So, all right. Once you're ready for the other side, bend over, position yourself, elbows to your side, and extend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna go for 12, 11, and 12. 45 seconds rest. We have our underhand front raises next, so just get ready for those. So again, we're here. Arms are far apart. We bring them forward and then back down. So if you're feeling well enough, you could bring them forward. When you're here, give it a little squeeze and then come back. Squeeze. Okay. And when you feel the squeeze, you might feel that closer to like your underarms, sometimes in the center of your pecs. So, but just hold it up here a little bit longer before you drop them back down. All right. Let's grab those weights. We're here and begin. So squeeze 10 to 12. So exhale on your way up. Squeeze. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Yeah, if you want to burn a few more calories, just go ahead and go for a walk, do some yard work. I just caught or filmed a new pet. We have a new gopher in our backyard. We've never dealt with any of that in the last 4 years since I've been here, and now we have a little pet gopher. So hopefully it doesn't damage the sprinklers. All right, and then now we're gonna go ahead and do our reverse lunges. So remember, two options. There's the reverse lunge and the static up and down lunge, okay? So give me 10 of each. All right, so remember, you're nice and upright, and you take a step back, and you drop down, torso's nice and upright. And if you could do these, then just alternate. You should feel that on your quads. I definitely do after yesterday's run. Woo.
I'll have to ask Greg about the gopher. He has some fun with that at work. I don't know if they put a hose in the hole, something. I'll have to ask him.
I've seen people do like a 5-gallon water jug and they put that in there and then the gopher swims up into it. And then they're good swimmers. So then they'll just keep on swimming until you just release them on a different site. But obviously you don't want to fatigue the gopher out, so kind of want to do it quickly. But yeah, it's last thing I need is the sprinkler system to be damaged. I wonder where it came from. One of our other neighbors' backyard. All right, and this is where we will take our 1-minute rest after we completed our full set. But if you go through the modules towards the end, I think after the discussion, there's still workout videos. And then I think the last page that I'm doing is just like habits. So just little things, being mindful of bracing your core or just, working on your balance a little bit as throughout your day. Just little things like that. Maybe stretching your ankles when you're watching TV or you're on a desk, or even driving or a passenger. You can do your ABCs with your ankles. Little movements, extra stuff you could do when you're not really, you feel like you don't have time to be active. There's plenty of time during the day just to do little things that could help you out. So then another 15 seconds. Again, we're going with our tricep extensions, okay? All right. Here we go, tricep extensions. I'm gonna go a little heavier for this one. I'm gonna grab my heavier weight and go ahead and give me 10 to 12 on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then switch. Get up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Right. Awesome. Whew. We have our front raises next. So remember, if you're taking any other Santa Ana College classes, today is our first day. So in case you enrolled in other classes, we should have class today. And then next Monday, we don't meet already because it's a Martin Luther King holiday. Okay. Here we go with our underhand front raises. Ready? Okay, go. So up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Ooh, this is a good one. Oh, well, it's one of those that, but when the weight's too light, you feel like almost nothing's happening, and you just add a few more pounds, and it really gets you going. All right, 45 seconds. All right, 10 seconds. Get ready for our reverse lunges. We're here, and we're gonna go ahead and do 10 on each leg. All right, whenever you're ready, let's go ahead and begin. And go. So 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, and 10. All right. Very good. Awesome. Oof. Okay. All right. For this next set, we're gonna go ahead. This is gonna be a little bit quicker and shorter, just because I do want to do our last set on the floor. So this last set that we're gonna be doing here, it's gonna be a shoulder lateral raise into a shoulder front raise. So we're getting 2 movements here. Okay, and then for our legs, we're gonna go with calf raises. So dumbbells at your side, heels up, and then drop your heels. So just those 2 movements, and then we'll do our final set on the floor with the yoga mat. So we could incorporate a little bit of strength on the floor. Okay. Take another 30 seconds before we start. Any questions? Make sure you're drinking plenty of water throughout the day. All right, let's get this going. All right, so we're gonna do 8 of each one, okay? So 8 to your side and 8 forward. All right, here we go. So 1, 1, 2, and just shoulder height. You don't need to go higher than your shoulder. 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, and 8. We're going to do our caps next. Oof. Yeah, I went to Nashville last month and then Dallas, and I'm pretty sure I gained a few pounds from barbecue. alone. So at least 2 meals a day were pretty heavy. Like what I eat on a regular basis, like once a week, I was eating like twice a day over there. So I was like, I don't do this often. I'm traveling, I'll do it this time around. Calf raises, right? So 15 to 20 of these. So up, hold for a second, then back down. So this is one of those where you get plenty more the slower you do them. If you do these really fast, you're not going to get much out of them. So really try to slow it down on these. I had, of course, what did I have? I had pulled pork, tri-tip, some types of different variations of burgers, some crazy pancakes. Like I think they have corn, like it's like a corn, almost like corn cake or like cornbread, but it's a pancake out of that. Yeah, just a lot of stuff with butter, lather butter and everything. Sides. Banana pudding. I didn't know Nashville was known for, I like Googled, I'm like, what is Nashville known for? And it said Nashville chicken and banana pudding. I'm like, all right, I guess I gotta try banana pudding. So pretty good. I'm not a banana pudding expert, so I couldn't tell you the difference of these variations. But, all right, 30 seconds rest. We don't need too much rest just because these movements aren't too demanding. But yeah. And then in Dallas, I didn't have anything new. It was just stuff that my cousin wanted me to try, some desserts, some pizza place, but nice little week of traveling. Oof. How cold is it out there, Jan? Like in the 20s, maybe 30s?
30s
30.
and sunny. It's nice.
Nice. Snow everywhere?
It's getting there. It's still pretty light.
Okay. Well, be careful. Hope you feel better. All right, let's go with 8 and 8 or 10 and 10 if you're able to. Ready? And begin. 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, and 8. Ooh. Last set of calf raises. Go ahead. Ready and begin. 1, 2. Again, give me 20 if you're able to. Hopefully we're not cramping up. And remember, always listen to your body. I may say, give me 20, but if your body is saying, hold on, I could only do 10 or 12, then, that's what we're going to do. Especially if you're feeling sick or fatigue, then yeah, listen to your body. Only you know how you feel right now. I'm just going based that you slept at least 8 hours, that you had a nice breakfast, and that you're feeling amazing. But if you don't feel that way, then, just listen to your body first. Got 2 more. Awesome. All right, and then for our last set of strength work here, we're gonna set up our yoga mat. So go ahead and do that. We're gonna do some movements on the floor. Just have my yoga mat. Still haven't upgraded these since COVID. Had these for, I think, since 2019, but they still work. All right. So just some movements that we're gonna do right now. We haven't done much core, so we're gonna go with planks. So with the plank, what you're gonna do here is the easier version would be to be kneeling and then just resting on your elbows and then just maintaining that posture there. Well, the only contact is from your knee to your elbows, keeping your torso and your hips nice and straight. That's really good work for your core. Your core, again, is everything that stabilizes your back, your abs, your obliques, your lower back. Now, if you're a little bit more advanced, you could do an elevated plank and then just use your toes and your elbows, okay? So we're gonna go with the count of anywhere between 30 seconds to 45 seconds. If we can do 30, then just try your best, rest a little bit, and then just jump back in until our 45 seconds are up, okay? All right, we'll start in 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and up. So I'll let you know when every 10 seconds, I'll give you a little notice. All right, we're 10 seconds in. So just looking down, holding that posture, 20 seconds in. 30 seconds. 35. 40. And time. Whew. Very good. 45 seconds there. All righty. Next, we're gonna go ahead and do our leg adduction. Okay, so these are our Jane Fondas. We're gonna do 12 on each leg. Mini bands or ankle weights would be awesome for this one if you do have them. If not, no big deal. But on this one, we're resting on our side and we're raising our right leg up and then slowly down. Again, just like the calf raises, if you do these too fast, you're not gonna get much out of these. So try to really control it and give me 12 to 15. Okay, and again, listen to your body. So all as high as you can, and just make sure you just avoid your other foot on the way down. You don't want to rest it. You just want to go up and down. And my legs are saying only to do 12 because they're our fatigue from yesterday. Okay. And then I'm just gonna rotate, get on my other side, rest for about 20 seconds, and then start again. All right, and from here, just again, begin up, down. 3, 4. And you might notice that maybe one leg has more range of motion than the other. Like this leg right now, I cannot raise it the same height as my other leg. I don't know if it's tight. It doesn't hurt. It's just limited in the range of motion right now. And last one. Very good. All right. I'll ask for a vote. Do we want to do sliding crunches or do you want to do glute bridges? Does anyone have a preference? So core or glutes? What do we want? At least one person respond.
Both.
Both. All right, let's do it. So same position for both of these, but we're gonna go with sliding sit-ups. So sliding sit-ups, as they sound, just hands on your lap, and you're gonna slide your hands towards your knees and then come back down, okay? Ready? 45 seconds or 30, whatever you like. We'll start in 3, 2, 1, go. So just slide. So just slide your hands up. Hopefully you have short arms, because if you have long arms, you might already be touching your knees. All right, we're at 15 seconds. "25 seconds. We're at 35 seconds. 40. 3, 2, 1, time. All right, catch a little breather. So next one, glute bridges. You're here, same position, arms at your side. What I want you to do is thrust your hips off the ground, so no contact here, and squeeze your glutes. Squeeze for about 2 seconds and then drop back down, and then come back up, squeeze, and come back down, okay? We're gonna go for 10 of those. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, up, squeeze, and down. Again, up, squeeze, repeat. I find it that when I'm just resting on my heels and I keep my toes elevated, I get a little bit more contraction. So I feel like I get a little bit more workout out of it. So just something, if you want to try that, just lift your toes as you're lifting your hips. Just raise your toes, but keep your heels planted at the ground. 3 more. Last one. And time. Whew. All right, so 1 minute rest. We're gonna do that circuit one more time, and then we shall be done for today. Good work. I'm at 193 calories so far. Okay, 15 more seconds. We're gonna go back to our planks. Oh. All right, here we go. Ready? 45 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go. So just the planks, just like we were doing earlier. Hold for anywhere from 20 to 45 seconds if you can. We're at 20 seconds. "30 seconds. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time. Get on your side. Okay, we'll start with our Jane Fondas, our hip raise, our leg raise. Ready? And begin. So again, 10 to 12 of these. So just raise that leg as high as you can and really try to control it on the way down. Don't just let gravity do all the work. Let's switch sides. And I'm just going to transition right into them. So 10 to 12. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Oof, yeah, that left leg. Yesterday, my right leg was killing me. And now my left leg but doesn't feel great. All right, so, oh, why am I getting up? We have our sliding sit-ups and then our glute bridges, and then we are done. Okay, 15 seconds rest. So again, sliding sit-ups for 30 to 45 seconds. Try to at least match what you did on the first round, but if you can improve, then great. Ready, and go. We're at 25 seconds. 30 seconds. 40. 3, 2, 1, time. All right, we have our last exercise, and then we'll just cool down for a few minutes, and then we'll call it a day. All right, we'll start in 15 seconds. Remember glute bridges, try to squeeze for 2 seconds before you bring your hips back down. 3, 2, 1, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, got 2 more, 11, and 12. Good work. All right, everyone, we're gonna cool down. I think I'd like to cool down from the floor. That's okay with everyone? So, okay. So for our cool down, we'll go with some stretches here. So kind of stretch out that inner thigh, outside glute. What I like to do for this one is my legs are straight. I bring my left heel in, and then my right leg goes out to the side and behind me. So I'm kind of stretching here, but I'm gonna lean over that knee that's right in front of me. Okay, so I'm just leaning, and sometimes the stretch jumps around, but it's usually for me on that outside glute on this back side. Sometimes it's on that inner hip. But yeah, this is one of those that kind of just gets the muscle that tends to be a little tighter in this position. How are we feeling? Jan, you're good? Bodies. Oh, yeah, hopefully you're feeling a little better. Ooh, you can just switch. All right, Teresa, feeling good. How are we doing, Mary? First class with us. All right, this wind is feeling good. All right, next one's gonna be a stretch for your hamstrings or your calves. We're gonna bring your left, so again, legs are forward, bring your left heel in, right leg is out. And usually for this one, it's one of those traditional stretches that we've probably been doing forever. You could lean, but what I like doing to stretch out my back a little bit is use my hind arm and reach and really lean over it. And when I do that incorporation, I also get a stretch on that back side, not just on my leg. And you don't have to reach your toes as long as you're holding the stretch. And then we'll switch here and then just bring in that hind arm again. Great. Let's bring both heels in now. So you just bring that extended leg out and then just bring both heels in. And if you're able to, just try to drop your knees down as far as you can. Little butterfly stretch here. Stretching your tendons and muscles that extend from your hip out to your knees. And then we're gonna cross. So crisscross applesauce here, and then just lean forward as much as you can. Ooh. That should do it for today's class. So let me just come up here. Burned a little over 200 calories. I'll take that. How's everyone doing? Good. Jan, make sure you're hydrating out there. Plenty of that. Cerise. Debbie.
Good.
Yeah,
Ayana.
Good.
All right. Cool.
Been great.
Awesome. So let me end the recording here. Hopefully everyone had a great session. How was it, Mary?